Lucky Lefty podcast. Onora boys in the building. Happy Thursday to everybody. This week is, man, it seems like this has been the longest week ever, dude. It feels like the weekend is already here. We're brought to you by ONORA Whiskey. It is ONORAWhiskey.com. It is that premium American whiskey. ONORAWhiskey.com. Ladies and gents, if you choose to drink this weekend, make sure you do it
responsibly.
Let's get it. Different. Left. It's an amazing day, man. The countdown is on. Kickoff tomorrow night, South Bend. 7 p.m. Central Time. 26 degrees, windy. Kirk Signetti said he's not worried because he has a Canadian quarterback. I know that would send you off. That's going to solidify the win for Left even more, ladies and gents. A Canadian quarterback as opposed to Notre Dame defense. You already know how he feels about Canadian quarterbacks. But let's get back to that work. He's going to join us to preview not only the matchup between Indiana and Notre Dame, but he's also going to tell us about the matchup between Tennessee and Ohio State. Then we're going to get Malik's 3 keys, his clean sheet, pre-snap read. Then we'll get to the predictions. We'll hear from head coach Marcus Freeman. We'll talk about the uniforms that Notre Dame released last night, the deep navy with the true gold pants and the exaggerated numbers. I like it. I like it. I like it. GTV questions, put them in the chat. Let us know how you're feeling. Super chats, we'll get to them as soon as you post. And let us know how you're feeling out there, man. Let us know how are you starting to feel better about the game? Put it in the chat. Are you feeling better about the matchup? I laugh. Hey, Left, can I tell you something, man?
No, I hear you.
Left, can you hear me? I think you're on mute. All right.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, man. Just excited for this game coming up, man. It's Ice Bowl, best game in NBA history, probably from a football standpoint. Bragging rights, but more importantly, setting the tone for a playoff run that you want to end in a championship. I think you're on mute.
There you go. I'm sorry, Left. I was just making sure my mic was good, bro. But Howard Griffith joins us in a minute. How are you feeling, Left, about this game?
I think it's going to be very smooth. Something that I think that we can show a lot of what we offer from a team standpoint, all 3 phases. Offensively, you get to see in a weather condition that we can still operate and score points, which I think is more impressive than playing at a clear day and scoring 30 to score 30 in a dead cold of night at 8 p.m. in South Bend is even more impressive.
Yeah. Let's bring in our brother, man. He's always gracious with his time. We appreciate every time he jumps on with us. None other than Howard Griffith. We're going to welcome him into the show. You know, give us a moment. Give us a moment. Bro, how you feeling?
You got me?
Got it? I got
yeah.
Hey, I know this is a Notre Dame podcast, but let's do our thing right quick. I
and I. You know.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem, right? I should have properly prepared because I still have my son's jersey hanging behind me, which is a little bit of a problem because you want to talk Indiana football. So it might seem like I'm conflicted here.
Oh man. So let's go ahead and talk about, let's go Ohio State, Tennessee before we get to Notre Dame. Look, man, I trenches, I almost want to go with Tennessee in the trenches.
Yeah.
Because of the offensive line. I know the defense in the trenches for Ohio State really good. But I think is it as simple as Nico versus Will in this game?
Yeah, I think many times when you talk about these types of games, the focus is obviously on the quarterback. But I would say in this scenario, Howard is going to have to make some plays at some point. That's what he's going to have to be able to do. And he's shown that down the stretch. He obviously didn't make enough plays at Michigan, and he turned the ball over as well. So he's got to be able to make those plays when they put him in a situation, because this is a good defense that they have. They're going to make some plays on that side of the ball. But if they can run the ball and establish the line of scrimmage, I think that's what they ultimately have to be able to do. And also, remember, they've got a guy out there at the wide receiver position that, man, first of all, it's a shame that he still has to play college football because he should be on the NFL roster right now in Smith. But, they've got to find ways to get the ball to their wide receivers. And that offensive line, yes, it was beat up the last time they were out. But, hopefully they've had an opportunity to get healthy and be in a better spot. But we're going to find out. I mean, this is the last time Ohio State was in this type of situation, they went on a run. And when I say that situation, when everybody is against them, they're talking about firing the coach. They're talking about this roster that's 20+ million. They're talking about a coaching staff that's most of those guys, except I think one, maybe two, are all making $1 million+. The coordinator's $2 million. So there are a lot of expectations that were heaped on this team all year, and they unfortunately weren't able to deliver. But everything they have and trying to play for is still right in front of them.
Don't believe in the coaching. Don't believe in the quarterback. Can't go far. Unfortunately, they're one of the teams that's built at an elite level at the top, but high enough to where the fall is going to be detrimental. And you got to see a sneak preview of that in the Michigan game, to where an inept quarterback with a coach that's born on third base, you're going to have troubles against teams that are more equipped than a Michigan defense was and a Michigan offense was, and you're going to see a difference. Now, we know what Ryan Day looks like in pressure-type games. It just happens to his schedule allowed him to have a lot of free passes. But when it comes down to the nitty-gritty and you break down those numbers, you start to get concerned, because now all these games are pressure games like the Michigan game was moving forward, where you may not be the outright top dog, regardless of where your number is, just from the perspective of what you bring as an intimidation factor. There's no longer an intimidation factor after watching that Michigan game.
I'd agree with you. I mean, listen, what you're saying is all factual information. I mean, anybody can look and see that this is what, in pressure situations and pressure games, particularly against Ohio, against Michigan, they have not been able to live up to the pressure. The only thing I would say is that now that pressure is gone. So now they're playing free. And that, is part of, why I think this ends up being a really good game. And they don't look as bad as they look against Michigan because they play tight. And there's no question about it. It was a tight team, period. And, whether that's just all the buildup of not being able or finally having something that everyone, all of their stated goals was obviously they wanted to win a national championship, but that all had to start, that run in previous years all had to start by beating Michigan. This year, that wasn't the case. So now we're going to find out. And this is, is the pressure on? Yeah, they'll tell you it's on. But this is an opportunity now for Ryan Day to make that next step. And he has to, quite frankly. Otherwise, it's going to be a tough offseason if they are out of this game, playing a home game versus Tennessee, and they don't come out victorious in this. This is going to be a little bit of an issue when you start talking about off seasons for Ohio State.
So you don't think the pressure being mentioned is overstated in this situation for Ohio State and what they're facing? I really feel bad for the players, to be honest, because, look, they could have very easily beaten Oregon on the road. It was right there for the taking. One or two plays here, they probably beat Michigan, right? So from a player's mindset, it's like, we can win. We know we can win. We know how good we are. But in the same breath, are the players thinking like, man, is our head guy, is he good enough to get us over the hump in a big game? I'm just trying to figure out, does that type of thought come into your mindset as a player?
Well, I think if the players execute the way they need to, it doesn't get to that point where it ends up being a tight game. They have to go play free. That's at the end of the day, that's what they have to be able to do, because all of those things are going to be out there. If this thing is tight going into the fourth quarter, all bets are off. Whoever executes the best at that particular point is the one that's going to win. But it's interesting when you talk about a player like Will Howard, that has been the challenge, right? For Ohio State, for all of the players that they've been able to bring in, they haven't necessarily been able to get necessarily the right guy or even try to develop that guy since Justin Fields walked out of there. And, it's tough. You've got to make an evaluation. You got to say, okay, this is the guy that's going to fit our scheme and what we're trying to do. I thought personally when they went with Will Howard that they were going to be a run team. It was going to be more read option. It was going to be heavy run and throwing every now and then. I didn't think it was going to try to be this wide open offense because I didn't think he was that guy. I can tell you, first time I saw them in the spring, he threw an interception to the defensive tackle. And I left that practice like, I don't know if this is going to pan out. But then he went on a little bit of a streak. He went on a little bit of a run. But, man, everything's magnified. You guys know it. Everything's magnified at the quarterback spot, particularly if you're leading a powerhouse program. And not only do you need to learn how to play quarterback on the field, but you also need to learn how to be the quarterback at that type of place because the pressure is immense. I don't have to tell you guys that. And I think that's one of the things that Will is going to have to deal with until he can finish the deal, get him to a championship, or his eligibility is expired.
Very interesting because go ahead, Left. Go ahead.
I don't believe he's an elite player, so to be in a position where he's going to be uncomfortable. I don't think you make that many strides after the last game of what you showed. So it's going to be a matter of, can your offensive coordinator around you, just like Denbrock had to, use the guys to make you comfortable enough to make the plays needed. So that requires a lot more run game, like you talked about. I thought they were going to be more of a run-heavy team. But we're talking about Chip Kelly. He's been wide open offense since the beginning. This is a fit problem that I think Chip Kelly has acknowledged and had covered up due to the fact you got a $20 million roster. But when it comes to, okay, I have to actually win this game with scheme against a talented defense, the fit's not there. You got Tim Tebow running a 5 wide. That's just the take a step back if you had no names, what it looks like.
Yeah,
so now when you get it, so what all offensive coordinators do when the pressure gets tight, they go to their best stuff. Chip Kelly's best stuff is 5 wide. That's why in the Michigan game, the last 2 drives, they didn't run the ball at all. Because Chip Kelly went to his best stuff. He didn't go to the stuff that they're good with, that they've been working with all season. He went to just like defensive coordinators in 2-minute drills at end the game. They go to their best calls.
Yeah, I would say one of their biggest issues is they've not addressed, and they've had injuries, but they still haven't figured out the O-line. For this team to be as talented as they are, to not be able to run the ball whenever they want to run the football, that's to me the problem. That to me is a bigger problem than at the quarterback spot, because if you could run the football, you'd be able to hide some of the other issues, and you'd be able to make some more of the bigger plays down the field that they need to make, as opposed to a lot of the crossing routes is what they had to go to later in the season. Otherwise, they're throwing up 50-50 balls to Smith, and he's going to come up with those because they're not 50, they 90-10 when you're throwing to him. So,
but in fairness, too, I mean, shoot, Ohio State doesn't go against many teams that stop their run.
Well, I disagree now. I mean, what Ohio State's been able to do is they've been in certain situations, they've been able to lean on teams to be able to take that away. To me, like versus Michigan has a much better defensive front than Ohio State, and Ohio State has all the names and all the money on their defensive front. But this Michigan defensive front is much better, much more physical at the point of attack. And really, the Oregon defensive line is as well. So when you see Ohio State make a lot of plays from the defensive end spots, it's one-on-one situations, and they're supposed to win those. They absolutely are supposed to win them when you have projected first round and top and second round draft picks at those 2 positions. But what they haven't been able to do is run it. Now, individually, which is crazy, individually, these guys are really talented on the offensive line. But as a group, they have not been able to get to the point where they can just control games. And that's part of the issue. When you're forced to come up 2nd and 8, now all of a sudden you got to throw the ball around 3rd and long. You got to still throw the ball around. It kind of handicaps you. And listen, it's one of those things that, again, this is going back a couple of years about them not being able to really control the ball, control the line of scrimmage, which is why Lou Holtz threw out the thing that they weren't very physical, essentially is what he said. And when they came out, I think it was 2 years ago, and they finally ran the ball and really controlled it, the first thing out of Ryan Day's mouth was the comment toward Lou Holtz, which that should have been the furthest thing from his mind. But that kind of gives you the insight of just how much pressure is involved in what he needs to do at Ohio State. It ain't easy. It ain't easy at any of these places, and particularly if that's your first job. You've got some issues and some stuff you got to deal with when everybody 365 days a year is worried about Michigan at Ohio State. That is everything to them. Whereas at Michigan's got to worry about Michigan State. They got to worry about some other rivalries as well that they have to pay attention to. At Ohio State, and I think players and coaches will tell you, when you're in that facility, it is all about Michigan. And when that doesn't happen, when you circle the calendar that this is what it's about, and you don't get there, man, and that becomes your stated goal, which it has been, and you don't execute and you don't get through it, this is what happens. And that's why, depending on who you're listening to or what people think, everyone believes that if he does not go deep in this playoff run, he's going to be, his job security would be in jeopardy. So, who knows? I think, the athletic directors come out and said it's not going to happen. He's going to be the quarterback next year, the coach next year. So you just have to see, but that's part of the deal. But I do think the narrative is, I think they have to make a run. If they can't make a run, I mean, this is going to be tough sledding for this program moving forward.
But the run would only be extending what is prolonged, in my opinion, to be a fire anyway. I think regardless of what should happen, they should let him go because the personality of the coach isn't the one of what they've seen before that took the rivalry up north serious.
Now, there's no argument. I mean, Urban is Urban, right? It's a reason he's a Hall of Fame coach.
So Brian Day is living on
the
credit line. He's on the credit line right now.
Well,
he ain't living with the extra pockets full right now. He living on credit. He living on favorite.
Yeah. And his pockets are real full though.
The pockets is full, but they was handed down. He had to open the deposit box at the bank.
Yeah.
They didn't send it to him in no W-2. He had a deposit box, an inheritance box.
Yeah,
start from the top.
Of it. Listen, that's part of it. When you haven't been a head coach somewhere else and you haven't built a program, these are the things that are going to happen, right? If you're not able to get your team over the top, people are going to say, well, he inherited, he got into a Ferrari. He didn't start off in a Yugo. He didn't start off in, some other kind of car like that where he had to build it up like Sonetti did at Indiana, right? He didn't. He had the opportunity, and he was the offense coordinator, and they said, hey, Urban said, this is the guy. And they made him the guy, and, it's worked if you look at the schedule, but it's not been the games that they expect to be able to win. And that's been the issue. And I don't think they can hide from it, and I don't think they should. It's if you're gonna coach at one of these places and you're gonna be fortunate enough to be that guy, a lot comes with it. The paycheck comes with it, the criticism comes with it. And trust me, in Columbus, they are not easy on him. It's an issue. So again, if he goes on a run, if he doesn't win it, I mean, because I think you can make the argument that it'll be a tough road for them to be able to win it. The narrative is, and you mentioned it, the narrative is not going to change. If he wins two games, two games, if he's not winning all of it, they're going to have things to say about it.
Lucky Lefty Podcast. We have Howard Griffith, Big Ten Network legend, Illinois football, legendary Chicago high school football player, state of Illinois football player, and on top of that, he's a Notre Dame dad. We throw that in the mix as well.
There we go. There you go.
Yeah. Lucky Lefty Podcast. So that's a perfect transition because I think the job you have been with this team when you guys go through and view the training camps on your tour, and then you see the early games, you do the studio on each and every Saturday, previewing all of these games and the matchups, and you talk about Kirk Sonetti and what he's been able to build, bringing players with him from James Madison, his work in Indiana at IU, in the state of Indiana and the college ranks before, going on to James Madison and finding success and eventually coming back to be the head coach for the Hoosiers. Tremendous amount of respect. When I watch them play, a lot of Notre Dame fans might not be familiar with them. They look at them 60-second rank strength of schedule. All right, you might not respect them because you saw what you saw against Ohio State. Okay, you saw them struggle against Michigan. Give us reasons why this team is dangerous coming into this matchup. And who are they really? Because is Ohio State against staunch competition? Is that who they really are? Or was that them not being ready for the moment and you expect them to come into this situation better prepared for the moment?
Well, I think they'll be better prepared. This is their first real trip into an environment like Columbus, right? So for this team, the strength of schedule is what it was, right? Yeah. It probably was much lower than that. Would probably have been in the 90s had they not played Ohio State. So and where Michigan ended up, what Michigan ended up doing. So you can argue about the strength of schedule, but you won't find anyone that will tell you that when they saw that schedule 6 months ago, oh yeah, Indiana will be right there competing for a Big Ten title and being the first 12-team playoffs. what he's done is been remarkable. And I'll go back a little bit and talk about this Ohio State game, because where Ohio State got to him was particularly on the offensive side. They had the special teams blunders. We can get, that happens in some of these games. But Ohio State started to bring more pressure. And the pressure became a problem because there was some inconsistency. There wasn't some communication that was going on between the backs and the tight ends. They would pick up a stunt early in the game. It was picked up perfectly. They came back and ran that identical stunt later, and they got home. Indiana tried to come across the line or across the formation with a tight end to block one of their defensive ends one-on-one. Timing was off. Player blew right by him, blew the whole play up. So there were plays that happened in that game that really kind of changed the tide of that game. This is a team that can play possession football and can play field position, and that's what they found themselves in, a situation where they needed to play field position, but that's where special teams kind of hurt them. What'll be interesting is this Notre Dame defense brings pressure because they have to. They got to bring pressure because they're not getting home with 4. So is Ellison, the running back from Indiana, he's got to be able to have his head on a swivel to know where the pressure's coming from and to be able to help instead of trying to get out into the route. I think the other thing that happens, we're going to probably see Notre Dame see a lot of crossing routes because they're playing man. And when you look at them versus USC, that got them in trouble. The communications part of that got them in trouble. And they really needed that offense to play at a high level to put that game away, even though they had the big interception, pick sixes going on. But there were, in that game as well, some 50-50 balls that the Notre Dame was winning. They were winning with. So defensively, they're going to trust that secondary to be in the places they need to be in. But if they can't get to Rourke and get pressure on him, the ball's going to be out quick. That's where he's at his best. When the ball is out quickly to their players, they're going to be able to create some separation in due time. But I think the other thing that'll be a big play for him is the tight ends. The tight ends versus the linebackers, I think they can make some plays where it's not always going to be what's happening outside. And then at the end of the day, they got to run the ball. But if it turns into a pass rush drill, if they get down, because I think it'll be tough offensively, the offensive matchup with Notre Dame versus them defensively, there'll be some challenges there. But if this turns into one of those games where Notre Dame is just controlling the line of scrimmage, man, it's going to be – it could end up being a long night for IU. But I do think that they do some things offensively when you watch the film that can give Indiana fans, some hope that they can go in here and come out with a victory. But they have to be able to play clean. They can't turn it over. They can't have special teams plays go against them.
A lot of people point to, when it talks about being positive from a Notre Dame standpoint, a lot of people point to what happened up in Columbus. And I'm like, no, I love what I saw in the Michigan matchup for the same reason. Because I think Notre Dame plays with the same physical mentality that Michigan plays with. I think even defensively, like you said, they might not have the edge rushers that Michigan might have to be able to get there with the 4. But the physicality that they play, barring that Northern Illinois game, for the most part, Notre Dame's going to play a physical game on both sides of the ball. Marcus Freeman talks about playing with violence. That, for me, is what I look at this thing, and I wonder, in a situation where Cignetti and that offense and their team has been able to dictate, the 2 instances they weren't able to dictate and they had to fight it out was Ohio State and was Michigan. That, for me, is an advantage for Notre Dame going into this game, and the depth. Because I know they have the talent. They have some really, I love their players. On the Campbell, West, come on, I love their players in the front 4. The secondary is smallish. I worry about them because early on, what I saw, Michigan and Sharon Moore, they came out in 12 personnel, but then they spread them out. And Loveland was having his way with the smaller defenders, the nickelbacks that were on him as he was detached from the line. So Notre Dame has Mitchell Evans. They have those guys. Mitchell Evans got it going in the second half of the season. I'm very interested in seeing how Mike Denbrock, like you said, we know what Al Golden's going to do.
Yeah.
He's going to bring it. I'm very interested in what Mike Denbrock starts to do early in this game, considering he's going up against the top Russian defense. That, for me, the first quarter early for Notre Dame is going to be the most interesting thing to see.
Yeah, I think
question mark.
Yeah, I think they've got to. I mean, you look at the way they run the ball. I mean, come on, that's what you got to do, right? You've got to set the tempo, and I think the conditions will be nice and cold and chilly. So I think that's one of the biggest ways to be able to impose your will. What's interesting about the way Indiana plays defense and Aiden Fisher, this is one of those games where Aiden Fisher, he could have anywhere from 13 to 20 tackles in this kind of game. But what he does a great job of being able to read off where his defensive linemen are going, because they kind of have free reign. It's up to the linebackers to fill the gap where, opposite of where that defensive lineman go, where they're going. So, that's one of the reasons when you look at Fisher, he's been able to be so productive, and he's been quick and getting downhill and triggering. You mentioned out on the edges, Pond, who is, he's undersized, but he's arguably the best player on that team. He's going to compete. He's going to make plays. He probably plays like he's 6'2", but he's nowhere near it. But so I do like the matchup, man. But I think you're right. You come out, and I think Notre Dame has to be able to set the tempo. That's got to be the key. You set the tempo for what you want to do and dictate the game plan there. And if they go back and forth, they go back and forth. But adding the quarterback into the run game will be a huge part of what they need to do, and trying to put those defenders in conflict to try to make that happen. So, I think, like anything in these types of games, I think there's going to be some huge special teams plays, at least 2 of them in this game that turn the tide. The team that doesn't turn it over, because Indiana cannot afford to turn it over, because if they do, it's like I'm saying. I mean, look, Rourke is going to get rid of the ball. He's going to get on. If he gets in a rhythm, he's going to find the open guy. He knows how to read the defense and go where he needs to go. But if they're in a situation where it's a pass rush drill, man, Al Golden's just going to turn these guys loose and let the guys outside do their thing. And, the 50-50 balls that are going to be out there, those 50-50 balls probably are going to lean Notre Dame's way, like they did versus USC. And USC's receiving core is probably better than what Indiana has right now, but those guys are really efficient in what they do.
So who is the guy on offense? You just talk about Fisher on defense. The guy on offense, who's the guy to say if this kid is going? Is it Mitchell? Is it Surratt? Is it the running back tandem?
Surratt is that dude is he's gonna play with the best of them, right? He comes down with some crazy catches, and he's been making great plays all year long for him. But I think it has to be, to me, it has to be at the running back spot, not because I'm an old running back, but just because of what they're going to be asked to do. They have to be able to pick up the blitz. They're going to have to be able to leak out or not necessarily leak out, but be able to chip when there are extra guys coming, so that he has time to throw it down the field. Everybody can point to the quarterback and say that's going to be the guy, but I truly believe that the backs have to be able to understand the blitzes that are going to be coming. Because Notre Dame, all they have to do is look at Ohio State. They're going to see some of those blitzes again. They absolutely are. And they may change it up a little bit, but they're going to be coming. So if you're a back, you need to be slow to go before you get out into a route, because if your quarterback's on his back, it doesn't do you any good to be standing out there 5 yards in the flat wide open when the quarterback's on his back. You've got to be able to protect up front.
How would you describe this Indiana defense? Because I'm watching multiple games this year.
Yeah.
And they run some very interesting things where the left side of the defensive line will be doing one thing and the right side will be running a stunt. And they're bringing the slot, the corner blitz. And you talked about Fisher, fitting gaps. That's going to be an interesting thing with the home run hitters at running back. Because you might shut Notre Dame down for a nice little period, but then they have two guys that if they get a crease and you don't feel that one gap on that one play, now you're looking at something going 70 yards and the game is totally flipped.
And that's where they've been good. And that's where Indiana has been good at filling those gaps and not giving up those explosive plays. But shoot, Notre Dame is, 80 or 77 10-yard or more plays from the running back. So they're going to come up with those explosive plays. They're going to get them, but they've got to make sure that when the safety has to fill the alley, he knows the alley he needs to be in. Because if he doesn't, you're right, it's over. It's like it's going to be a home run. And nothing's going to be more demoralizing than the weather, the fans going crazy, and then you giving up a big run. It's going to change the entire momentum of the game, and then things get away from you. But that's why this defense has been so technically sound at what they do. They're really well coached, and it's not that they're the most talented group out there, but they understand their assignments and go execute, and they're not going to miss a lot of tackles. But these guys, they can make you miss, right? And they can run through you. So you're going to have to make sure you're bringing the guys to the ground or holding on till your buddies can get there to help you.
Before we let you go, Howard Griffith, Big Ten Network, joins us here, Lucky Lefty Podcast. We spin it different. SMU, Penn State. Hey, look, if this was played in a dome, I would really kind of be worried a little bit. But I really do think the elements are going to play a major factor in this matchup. I have profound respect for SMU and what they've done, just like what Signetti has done down there in Indiana. So do you think SMU can go up there and keep it close and make it a fourth quarter game? That's when I think Penn State might get a little tight because they've shown that tendency with James Franklin at the helm. Or does that run game and the physicality of Penn State kind of just take over from the beginning and force SMU to play catch up like they had to against Clemson? They tied it and took it into overtime, eventually losing. But I don't think they want to get down like that against Penn State on the road. Yeah,
they don't want to do that. And I think when I left Lucas Oil a couple weeks ago after watching Penn State lose, I was like, if Penn State plays like this, and then all of a sudden you see the seedings, and you're like, okay, you got SMU, okay, you win that, you got Boise. Man, if you look at this thing, do they have the best path, right? Is that the path everybody will want if you had an opportunity in this deal to pick the teams you want to play against? They were so creative in that game, and the run game got going. And I'll tell you this Tyler Warren dude, Man, he is a game wrecker. He nobody's covering him. He's coming up. He's Gronk. He's a more athletic Gronk. And this dude is nothing he can't do. And what happens is, and this is going to be a big part of this stretch for Penn State. What happened against Oregon, he was dead tired. Because they're asking him to do so much. He was dead tired in that game. So immediately after, I'm like, man, he doesn't need to do nothing for a week. Right? Let him just rest, put him on the shelf. But the other thing you saw in that game is you saw their running backs coming out of the backfield and going vertically and matched up against linebackers. And that, to me, they did that earlier in the year. But this was the best Penn State has looked offensively in, I would say, a couple of years. To be able to get the pass game going, to be able to get the run game going, your quarterback's playing really well. He's moving the chains with his legs. Man, they had it rolling, but it's not a team you want to get down to. And you mentioned it. It's two people here in the playoffs right now, coaches. When you look at the 12 of them, there are two of them that have an immense amount of pressure on them. And one's James Franklin and the other one's Ryan Day, right? Everyone wants more because the narrative has been when we started talking about going to a 12-team, well, we've been a 12-team playoff. Penn State would have been in it the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is. Well, now they're in it, right? So now they're in it and they're playing. They've got a home game. And this is a game that they should be able to win. If they're as good as we believe they are, as good as they showed versus Oregon, they should be able to win the game. And the elements, that's what's great about, the playoffs right now. Now, what I don't like the seeding. I think that's ridiculous because I don't think necessarily it's the 12 best teams, and they should do a reseeding. But you talk about Penn State being able to play at home. Jumping back to Notre Dame being able to play at home. Those are the conversations that went on between the SEC, Big Ten, and Notre Dame. This is what they wanted to see. Notre Dame being able to, okay, if they're not the highest seed, what happens if they get a home game? So the things are, some of it is working out really well. But I think everybody's got to go execute, right? Because the greatest thing, what I really appreciate, and I've told you guys is about the student athletes and the people at Notre Dame, particularly in the football building. It's national championship. That's what it's always been. It's getting to the playoffs. It's that opportunity, and no matter what, people are gonna say, it's just Notre Dame. Notre Dame goes down in the first round. Can you believe the scrutiny the program's gonna be under? Even so, you bookend it with what happened against Northern, then you tell me what happened against Indiana. That's not a scenario anyone wants to really see, right? So I just think it's so great for the fans and great for us as college football fans to be able to watch some of the matchups that we're going to get, particularly this first weekend. But it's going to be some pressure on some Big Ten teams to be able to take that next step. We didn't even talk about Oregon. Looks like Oregon, the number 1 seed, has the toughest road to get to a championship. So that's why I say this whole seeding thing needs to be and I think they will fix this in the offseason because it's not working. That didn't work this year for me.
What's tougher in terms of the Big Ten before we let you go?
Yep.
This team loses and the Big Ten looks worse. Like, fill in that blank. If Penn State loses, Ohio State loses, Indiana loses, this team looks worse. Or is it nuanced? Had someone talking to me yesterday was like, committee does not want to see Indiana get blown out. That's the last thing they want to see is Indiana get blown out by Notre Dame, right? Do you really want to see SMU walk into cold weather? It's a hot weather team and beat Penn State. Yeah. And then you talk about the pressure on Ohio State. But what loss would be more devastating to the overall picture of Big Ten football?
I think, it's Ohio State. Because that's outside of Oregon, right? And sometimes that's what people are going to have to wrap their heads around as we start this 12-team playoff. Yeah, that's right. Oregon is in the Big Ten now, right? But, they've been able to answer some questions out there. Ohio State has not, right? They haven't been able to answer some questions, and the questions are on the biggest stage getting it done. Same thing goes for Penn State on the biggest stages going against top 5 teams. I think they're 1-22 at this particular point. And that's going to be tough to deal with. I don't think anyone's going to be, upset about, Indiana losing outside of the, Indiana folks, because, a lot of them are excited about just having the opportunity to be in this. I'd say this. I think we also need to make sure the committee had nothing to do with the seeding of these teams. And that's why I go back to Big Ten commissioner, SEC commissioner, and Notre Dame. They're the ones that crafted this particular way. And unfortunately, the committee's got their hands full, and this was a tough year for them to do what they needed to do. But they're two different entities that set up as far as the seeding is concerned, and then where these teams were placed. Those things were already negotiated, and I think they'll revisit it like anything else. You've got to try to make it what you believe is going to be the best, and this is the first year. But I'd go back to this again, that the premise of having that 12-team playoff and having more of a national interest in what was going on has been achieved. Yeah, I mean, it has been achieved with the great stories that are out there, with the great programs that are out there. having a chance to compete. Man, this is really what we wanted to see. And how about Indiana and Notre Dame, the only game in town on a Friday night, and how many eyeballs are going to be on that thing? So, I know Sinetti has talked about just how much attention is going to be on the state of Indiana and where both these programs are, that it's going to continue to drive, particularly Indiana. It's going to continue to be able to drive them in the portal, in recruiting, and doing what they need to do to try to build this again, because they don't want to be a one-hit wonder either. They want to continue to try to build this, and being in the playoffs, to me, is almost similar this first year, or when we look at it, is kind of making the Sweet 16. It's kind of making the Elite Eight. You can always hang your hat and say, "Hey, you had a chance to win a title. You were one of the best. You were one of the best 12 teams in America, and had a chance to fight for it. And whether you win it, still only one team can win it. And the best team, hopefully, has the chance to win it, and we'll just go from there."
Yeah, this is a great opportunity to, a great story for Indiana. Had a great season, got invited, and the consolation is their Super Bowl against their big brother. Yeah. And I think this will be a great way for them to tell a recruiting story for the off season. But we'll put them to bed. I don't think they see themselves anywhere past this first round, because they think this is the Super Bowl, the Battle of Indiana. It's like high school, the state championship game.
I would say the fan base. I would say the fan base probably feels like that, but them cats in that locker room,
Cats in the locker room, no, they felt like they won. They made it. No, they made it. We see it as a new beginning. They see it as this is our Bahama Bowl. This is our. I would say this.
Notre Dame better come ready, and Notre Dame has to play at the way they're capable of playing. You let this team stick around. And it's
Notre Dame's like that slide, good family that invites you over. They say, "Oh, come on over, bring all the family with you." And they limit you to one plate. And they say, "Put your name on the cup." And they let you get one drink at a time.
Howard Left has been so disrespectful this week, man. I try to keep objectivity on the show this week, because he's already out there. Left. He's like, see, you can relate to this. You see, as a Morgan Park alum, it's probably the way you guys used to talk when you were facing us at Gately Stadium.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Like before the game, you're like, I get it. Yeah.
For us, this is just to get a bag. For Notre Dame, this is just to get it back. For Indiana, this is the movie, the storybook, crying tears. The guys gonna be hugging and crying when the season's over. For us, this is just a chance to just make some money in the snow. I hear you. Because Notre Dame, we selling the clumps of snow by the hundreds. First snow to touch Notre Dame turf ever, playoff $100. We'll be selling the clumps of snow on the side of the state. It's just a money grab for us. This was a conversation that Jack Schwarbrick had with the committee members and said, "Hey, if y'all not going to give us a top 2 spot, let us make a quick $10 million on our first playoff game. Yeah. Nice little lob. It'll satisfy not being the top 4. Because honestly, there's no advantage to this game for us. We're playing in the snow. So, and he knew that. We're sacrificing the snow for that green. Green in our minds and in our pockets, snow on the field. Because there's no advantage to being a 5th seed, even at home in December. So I know it wasn't a football reason. This is just a chance to get a nice little Christmas bag for the families. We can rake it up in the bookstore, put it under the mats, for say as hibernation.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yeah. You talk about you guys printing money all season long. This just ends up being extra. All I'm going to say is this: they better come to play, because if they look at it like, oh, they don't want this to be close.
It'll be close because of the conditions, but there's no star power on IU.
You don't need to start. That's the greatest thing about having 11 guys on the team. I tell you what. Let them sleepwalk if they want to. It's no doubt they're a much talented team, and they should be.
We would have to fall apart. Like the amount of things that would have to happen. let's just put it in perspective.
I'm
We
listening.
would have to literally fall apart. Like the team just gives IU 21 in the first quarter. Just gives it to us.
You mean like week 1?
No, we haven't fell apart in a I wouldn't even consider the second game falling apart. The second game was about getting on track.
Oh yeah. You go to week 3, particularly the offense, they started, they averaging 30, the point differential was like 30 some points. You get rid of that. But they're still week 1. And this is not, hey, and this is another one. I'm sure that was the same attitude they had week 1.
A defense has taken away half of your offensive points on a sunny day. On a sunny day.
Again.
You got to take another third if you're putting some other conditions in there. On top of a quarterback that's a statue, so he's already frozen. He's going to just put a little bit extra ice on him with
but
that
who's gonna get there?
He's going to be a standing step in the pressure.
Yeah, but who's going to get there?
Run, oh, man, it's a bad style fight. It's a bad style fight. You got a quarterback that's a statue with snow flurry conditions, with an offensive line that's suspect, with a defense that's already cutting your points in half, going to cut another half off of that. Where is the production on offense going to come for IU? You're going to run the football, but we're ready for that. That's what we're preparing for. Can the IU quarterback have 300 yards in the snow flurry? That's the question. Can the IU quarterback have 300 plus yards in snow flurries? Because that's the only chance. Because where else are points going to come from for IU?
I would say this. You only need to go back and look at the film against USC, and USC certainly ain't world beaters on the offensive line.
But that's in sunny conditions.
Hold on. Versus USC's offense versus Notre Dame's defense in that game. I saw running backs running wide open, making a guy miss in the hole and was gone. I saw a lot of missed tackles in that game. So again, I see your point, but they better come ready to play and not make mistakes. The better team should win, and the better team is Notre Dame. But that doesn't mean that they're going to show up. They hear the thing. They hear everything too. Oh, weather conditions. IU's terrible. I'm not saying that I'm picking IU. I'm just saying that they better be prepared because this team has found a way to go in and control games. Even when they say, okay, well, we don't have any star power. We don't have any. Well, okay. I know this. They better get to the quarterback. They've got to be able to get to the quarterback because the quarterback they played against SC,
he can move around. And what Xavier Watts say, if they watching film on me, they see I get the ball. I don't know what that means, the air or the ground shipping or the or what. What that
I'll
mean?
tell you this. I think it's going to be, I think it'll be a really entertaining game. And I'm looking forward. I'm not looking forward to the call. That I'm not looking forward to, but I'm looking forward to getting back there and checking things out.
Oh, you going to be in South Bend?
I'll be in South Bend.
God bless you, because I was offering tickets and I said, no, sir.
Yeah,
no, sir. I'll take my 75 in the living room.
There you go.
And I'm good. But thank God we get good football on Friday and good football on Saturday. Because Lord knows you and I, Howard, ain't nothing to watch on Sunday in Chicago.
And man, don't even get me started on that. That disaster.
Ain't a darn thing to watch here in Chicago, boy.
That's bad people.
See, Howard, we don't even have anybody to stand in the gap for us, man. We're forced to go out with our wives on weekends.
Right, you got to be out.
Well, y'all got Zach Levine. Zach Levine play on Sunday.
Here we go, man. Zach
Levine,
I don't know why he's the biggest Zach Levine fan, Howard. I have no clue where it comes from.
He's the star of Chicago, Sean. He's y'all number one player.
Nowhere near.
That says it all.
I know high school basketball players are the biggest stars than Zach Levine. I'll leave it at that. Howard, we appreciate it.
All right, fellas.
All right, man.
Y'all have a great weekend. Take care.
Same to you. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, man. That's Howard Griffith right here, Lucky Lefty Podcast. Left, you know what time it is. Each and every week, we get Malik's 3 keys brought to you by ONORA Whiskey, ONORAWhiskey.com. What's your 3 keys to this matchup? Indiana, Notre Dame, 7 p.m. Central Time. Kickoff, Notre Dame Stadium. 3 keys.
The first key, I think, is going back to a nice Christmas jingle of chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And that's what this game is about. It's a slow roast. You got to put these guys over the open fire and slow roast them. And what that means is a gradual whooping in the snow. I don't expect a outburst of points in the first quarter, but it needs to be a nice sweltering amount of points. 7, 10, 14, 21. We need to be scoring in each quarter. That's the first goal. That's the slow open roast over the fire. That's what we need to be able to do, because if you can add consistent pressure, just like a boxer, be a pressure fighter. We may not have to be a knockout artist, but a pressure fighter in this game. Keep it on them. Go for it. Special teams.
What type of
Make it work.
again?
This is the things that you have to be consistent with, which requires us to be efficient on third down, which means I would like us to be third and short majority of the time, because third and long in this game, just due to weather conditions and who we have at quarterback, just isn't the optimal position to be in. So if we can play above the sticks and keep a low third down advantage, I think we'll be fine in terms of adding the run game and it being effective. So the second point,
You said chestnuts, huh? Put them over the open fire.
put them over the open fire. Just let the things roast over 4 quarters. They'll be ready by the end. You know. The second point would be defensively. Create turnovers. If we get 2 turnovers in this game, it's over with. Because remember, in order for IU to, in my opinion, have a successful outing, outside of Notre Dame just completely dropping the ball, the quarterback has to have a tremendous day in the air. It's just a fact of the matter. Nobody's counting on you to do it. Al Golden, as smart as he is, knows that the run game is what y'all going to stem things off of. But if he doesn't just play spectacular from an accuracy standpoint, because we're going to play man. Al Golden's like, I don't care if we're going to play man. So if he is accurate in that aspect, it's going to be a long day. So that's a 300-yard day in the snow. But if we can get a couple turnovers, 2+, that's my second point. That's a nice stocking stuffer for this Christmas game. And then the last point, I want to see us take chances. And why I say slow start to Beef Eater in DOA is because we don't want to rush this. Because if rushing this in these weather conditions to lead to mistakes that we don't factor in necessarily for a game like this. We don't want to just try to go full throttle and throw crazy picks or have snaps over our head or fumbles, or we want to be able to be very controlled, have some nice drives, punch it in from short, just really punish a team that is really dependent on their physicality to override what we got. That's the name of the game. Physicality is going to control the game, and then us being able to execute on drives is what matters. That's their strength, but at the same time, they don't have enough talent, and the quarterback has to be on fire. I mean, I'm telling you, every quarterback that's been on fire has given us trouble. We've been fortunate enough to just, over the full length of a game, wear on guys. Guys can get hot, but shoot, then Louisville game, Leonard Moore gets a fumble. And then we start getting a pick, and then they miss just inopportunity time. So for us, we have to be able to stay third and short and efficient on third down. It's a slow roast and pressure fighting situation. So score each quarter, and then lastly, take chances. So on special teams, hey, still make stuff happen. Don't get shy because it's a playoff situation. We've been aggressive all regular season. Let's stay aggressive and maybe get some some extra turnovers to get the ball on offense.
MALIK'S 3 Keys brought to you by ONORA Whiskey. We hear from the head man in charge, Marcus Freeman. This is what he had to say. He was asked, you said, Coach, at the beginning of the season that this was the most talented team that you've had during your time at Notre Dame. Was there a point in the season where you felt like, now I have a playoff team? This is what Marcus Freeman had to say.
There's not one instance that I believe that I said, man, there's a playoff team until we beat USC. But talent is one thing. You know, I still believe this is the most talented team I've had a chance to be the head coach of. But there's the work that it takes to take talent and turn into skill and to turn into being a great football team. And there isn't a defining moment for that. It's a constant process from when we started in January to fall camp to where we're at now. And we're still on a process to continuing to reach our full potential, as I always say, and improve. And then we'll look back when it's over. Whenever this thing is over, we'll look back and say, here's the key points in this season that really helped us get to this point.
I mean, this season about moments, but unfortunately, these moments are going to be created now. And these moments that we create moving forward, it will encapsulate the regular season. But the regular season, I don't feel had many moments other than us mistakenly losing in week 2. This was an expected 11-1, 12-0 season. We've done it before under Brian Kelly.
Yeah.
Recent years. So it's not as bougie as it sounds. We still expected this to be what it was. These are the moments we create in these playoffs, and especially the week after this week. So for me, as a fine wine taster to a Notre Dame season, it's high expectations, and I think we're right on task. We got to finish the job.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it from your standpoint, Lef. I just really worry about that team when they walk on the field and how they feel. That's all that matters to me tomorrow night. How does Notre Dame and the young men donning that gold helmet, how do they feel about themselves walking on the field? Doesn't matter what Indiana thinks. Doesn't matter what the coaches think. What do they feel about who they are, how they have prepared, and what are they willing to do from an execution standpoint at kickoff? It's as simple as that. As we talked about with Howard, man, look, you know, when it comes to football, when Howard played, when the Julian Jaguars and their legendary Coach Smith were in the locker room, whether it was facing my Mustangs or they were facing Simeon or Corliss or anybody else, they knew they were the better team. From a basketball standpoint, when we were in the locker room, if we weren't facing Simeon, we knew for the most part that we were the better team. Notre Dame doesn't need to hear from coaches. They don't need to hear from fans to know that they're the better team. They've shown that, they've proven that, and by their works on the field, they have the right to feel like they are the better team. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes into play, Left, when they don't execute and play like it. They did not play like it against Northern Illinois. They were the better team, decidedly the better team. But they didn't show up, execute, and play like it. If Notre Dame shows up and plays like the better team, they will win the game. It's as simple as that. That's all it comes down to. We can sit up here, preview, talk about analytics, stats, rankings, all of that. Notre Dame is the better team. Notre Dame is the more talented team. Marcus Freeman knows they're the more talented team. He's probably going to speak to that and making sure that they stay focused. You know you're the better team, but Northern Illinois. That Northern Illinois is a great teaching point for the rest of the season. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're better, but you have Northern Illinois. So don't forget that, because that's inside of you as well. So when you step on this field, you make sure that part of you does not come out. And I think Notre Dame is going to do a great job of showing that. And one of their biggest advantages is their team depth. Marcus Freeman talked about that as well, Left.
I think we have depth more than anything. Is we have guys from the top of our roster to the bottom that can help us win football games. And when that opportunity presents itself on game days, it changes throughout the year. But you have to be ready, and you can't wait till your number's called on game day to get ready. And I think that's what it speaks to, is that guys that have prepared in a way to be ready, and they didn't know if their number's going to be called on Saturday or not. But because of an injury, now they're thrust into action and everybody else gets to see it. But more important than anything, it speaks to the talent, the depth of our roster, but also the way those guys prepare for an opportunity that they don't know is going to happen on game day.
And that's pretty huge, man. I've been in that position, Left. Like making sure as a backup that you're prepared, because you never know when that opportunity or that door is going to open for you to go out there and seize the moment. And who knows, man? Playoffs always are a great stage for the unknown to rise to the occasion and steal the moment. It might be somebody.
That's also what you were saying. I mean, Marcus Freeman has always pushed competition and it being a pretty even, but that's a credit to great recruiting. You're recruiting guys that are even in talent, various in skill, but they all play in a way that's interchangeable. And then it's not drop offs. It's not like elite 5-star and then the next guy's a 3-star. That's up and coming. Everybody kind of developed in the same group, and I think that was smart based on what we talked about a year or two ago about Marcus Freeman kind of reserving guys in their groups, not just throwing a guy out there because he could get some time, but being like, okay, let this ride out with these older guys, Maris, J.D. Bertrand, let them lead, finish, and let these younger guys come in together where they can learn and learn each other and play. And so now you look at a year after that, now it's like, okay, these guys may not be seniors, but they're playing like veterans. And I think you get to see how that chemistry has worked well and how guys have been able to plug in when Ben Morrison, who's been in training and getting shown the way by and showing the way to Christian Gray and how that affected Leonard Moore and how Leonard Moore stepped in after. It worked out beautifully. Don Shula sat a year, watched Xavier blossom, comes underneath of Xavier and makes plays. So the things that are happening is a clean process. And so now you get to see how depth in recruiting in a program where you're not chasing the top of the top necessarily, you're getting a good fit, how well it can work in the long run.
Howard made a good point too. You have that depth, but there is something missing when it comes to just being able to unleash 4. I mean, Jordan Botello and Boubacar Traore, your best edge rushers. But like I said, Left, a stage like this, could it be a stage where a Bryce Young makes 2 of those type plays, getting to the quarterback, a strip sack that leads to a fumble recovery and possibly a touchdown? Does the youngster have it in him? This is the stage where you find out, guys that have that special gene, this is when they really rise to the occasion, Left. Moments like this. Like, I expect X to make a play tonight, make multiple plays tonight. He's built like that. I expect a Drake Bourne to make plays tonight. He's built like that. If Kingston were healthy, I would expect him to make plays. He's built like that. I expect Christian Gray to make a play tonight. They just have guys that are built like that. Leonard Moore is just built like that. And so you even have to say Riley Leonard. I don't know how it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be in the passing game, the run game. I expect him to make a play. You already know the running backs. If they get a moment, a crease, they're going to make a play. I'm interested, Left, who you think in the wide receiving core could be that guy tonight or tomorrow night to make a play?
I think a Greathouse is a good player for a game like this, an intermediary guy, a guy that's tough between the sticks, may not be the most explosive downfield guy, but a guy that can catch a short route and get tough yards or
Mm-hmm.
find an open area, a phase on type of player, even a Jaden Thomas being a big body, a Bo Collins throwing it up. I think our tight ends are going to make impact because now you're getting in more specific ranges of what Riley can do with the weather conditions and your best matchups. Your Mitchell Evans is going to be open. Your Eli Rairdens. And just, our style of offense fits for a day like tomorrow. So I think for us, we just can't turn the ball over and we'll be fine.
Well, I'm sure we won't have any punt returns. We should just fair catch it in the cold, right? You expect fair catches in
Let
the
it
cold.
bounce. Don't even take the chance of
Just don't turn it over. Just don't turn it over. I feel you, Left. Marcus Freeman, he was asked about, I can't wait to hear you respond to this, the 1-year quarterback in the portal. And he was asked about developing the offense or scaling back the offense because of the difficulty of transitioning a guy that's coming into your system for 1 year. This is what he had to say, Left, because it sounds like something you've been saying all summer long.
To your left, Kurt Rallo.
Coach, can you talk about the trend of 1-year quarterbacks, and do you modify or condense a playbook, or does it just take a long time naturally to kind of master that?
Every program's different. Every offense is different. There is a process that it takes to make sure that your quarterback and your offensive is performing at the highest level it can. But there's also ways to expedite that process, as I think Riley and Coach Denbrock and Coach Kaduli have truly been intentional about doing. As far as us moving forward, it's not something we plan on worrying about in the future.
Woo! You see how Marcus, he was like, y'all tried to find a slick way to ask me about getting a quarterback in the portal again. I like the way he answered that towards the end. Like, we're not worried about that in the future.
Yeah, I mean, you don't maybe want to give. I mean, if there's a right guy, there's a right guy. I mean, that's just
But see, once again, Left, he can't control after the season is over who leaves that quarterback room. He can't control that. He knows Riley's leaving. He can't control Steve and Kenny if they decide they want to go elsewhere. He can't control that. So he can only speak to the present. As presently constructed, with those 3 guys in the room coming back, no, there is no need to go to the quarterback portal. None at all.
There's definitely not a need. I mean, we've proved that we can do a first-year guy 3 years in a row. Why not do it another year, but with a guy in-house? And I think this is probably more the style of offense that would fit a Kenny than a Sam Hartman's offense would fit a Kenny. And so I think we've got more than enough, I think, to operate how we should and put a franchise face on the program, and at least for 2 to 3 years. I think Marcus Freeman has primed himself and his program for that, especially if we win it this year,
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be bad. But hell, like I said, if there's a guy out there that is just that deal, why not? Why not? But you know how to adjust. Clearly, you proved it. I know Denbrock was still a 2-year guy no matter what. But hell, there's somebody out there.
It was just interesting the way he talked about, the difficulty of, especially when health is involved, it becomes a difficult transition. And I think we've seen that. But I think something else stands out with everything he talked about, the talent on the team, the depth on the team, but the ability of the surrounding cast to be able to absorb less than stellar quarterback play early in the season. See, that is something that people, because this is what happens, Left. People just want to throw out general statements. Yeah, Riley didn't play well early on. Oh, Riley didn't play well this game, or he didn't do this, and then they just want to stop the conversation. They're like, all right, let's just say that so we can get it out of the way and just move it over. And then let's focus on everything else. When the truth of the matter is, it was everything else that held that quarterback position up until the quarterback position was ready to play at the level that was needed. That's what Marcus Freeman has built, and that's why he's worth every penny. That's what he's built, Left. You take last year's team, they wouldn't have been able to deal with that quarterback play at that level early in the season. They wouldn't have. I don't think last year's team responds to a loss against Northern Illinois like they did this year. Once again, this is about what we felt like was the perfect storm or the perfect atmosphere to go ahead and play whomever in the quarterback room, man. Because the program at its roots are very strong and healthy. The depth is there to endure injuries, to endure quarterback play that's less than stellar, whether it's from 2 to 3 game stretches, 2 to 3 quarter stretches, whatever the stretch is, this team is good enough to endure, overcome, and still excel. And that's what you have as a football program right now. That's to be celebrated, man. That's to be celebrated. Because they said that first time head coach couldn't do it. The pundit said you couldn't build depth at Notre Dame. You couldn't do it. You couldn't win at Notre Dame unless you had elite wide receivers and an elite quarterback. You can't do it. But ladies and gentlemen, they are 2 games away from possibly being in the semifinals of the college football playoffs. I have absolutely nothing to do with that. You have absolutely nothing to do with that. They have to decide that on the field. What I'm telling you is the work has been put in to set the stage and give them the best possibility to be able to accomplish those goals.
That's right.
And it's not like it's about to hit a plateau. It's still ascending. It's still ascending. So I'm excited, man. We asked the question, LL question of the day. How are you feeling about this game? Is there anxiety the closer you get to the game? Are there certain aspects or certain things about Indiana that make you a little nervous? Great guest, Howard Griffith, told us about them playing cohesively, the team they are. Rourke getting the ball out quickly. If you don't get pressure on him, he has the ability to pick you apart, move the ball. What we saw from that defense against USC were those issues solved, particularly tackling, mental errors, penalties. Notre Dame gets a chance to answer those questions tomorrow night at 7 o'clock Central Time. It's plain and simple. But the biggest story, and by the way, Riley Leonard, classy words that you unveiled via Players Tribune, kind of your ode to Notre Dame, the program, the community, beautifully spoken, beautifully written. Salute to you, young man. I've taken my cap off to you multiple times over the last month because you answered the bell. You answered the bell. You didn't run.
Yeah, I mean, we're glad that you're grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah. Sorry for, let me say this, love. For some reason, the stream is Twitter is, go over to the YouTube page. If you're on Twitter and you're having problems, the YouTube feed is much better. I keep getting messages about the Twitter feed. So go ahead, love.
Yeah, I mean, Notre Dame's been a place where you can elevate your status, stepping stone to good opportunities in the future. And, we this is the gift of being in a good position, man. I mean, I feel like you've gotten better with what we were able to put around you, and you've elevated your game since previously seen. You stayed healthy, and now you have taken yourself to a new level, and hopefully we can continue this ride through a championship.
Yeah, I agree, Left. I absolutely agree. Lucky Lefty podcast. So you want to tap in, Left, and talk about your predictions brought to you. Oh, you didn't give your pre-snap read, Left. Give us your pre-snap read. How do you see this thing playing out offensively for Mike Denbrock? How is he going to approach the Indiana defense early?
Yeah, I'm just going to let them see if they can tackle Love. How many times can I give Love the ball early on to get the IU defense out in the open of what they want to do in terms of a game plan in the early open? Pass if you need to, but really establish the run. Put Riley in some of the run situations, keep third down short, and get a good first drive to put some points on the board. I think if you can play from a lead in this game, everything will be take care of itself.
All right. That is the pre-snap read from MALIK'S ZAIRE. We look forward to a victorious post-snap read right here on Lucky Lefty podcast. All right, Left, let's go ahead and give our predictions. Happy Valley, SMU, impressive season, overtime loss to Clemson. How do you see the matchup as they take on the Penn State Nittany Lions up at Happy Valley in front of 100,000?
I don't know. I don't have a lot of hope in James Franklin. I think it'll be okay for the first game. But, man, I got SMU losing just because of the weather conditions. I just don't think they'll be as effective. And I think the size of Penn State and the problem that they're going to deal with of SMU trying to guard their tight end, I think it's going to be Penn State by a close margin, but a low-scoring game.
I think I'm going to take Penn State and Warren. I think Warren is just too much for that team, the tight end from Penn State. I think they're going to have difficulty trying to match up with him. And then the running backs will get going in the run game. And like Howard Griffith said, out of the backfield, they've been used significantly by Penn State. So I would agree with that. I would agree with that, Left. Oh, man. Ohio State, Tennessee.
I got Ohio State because I need Ohio State to win. I need them to win. I'm going to Ohio State. Keep playing it simple. Nico Iamaleava, I just think he's not experienced enough for a moment.
Not ready. Yeah, not ready.
So I got Ohio State, but I think Nico could be the defining factor in the game. I just think he's not ready. So Ohio State in this one.
I'm not even going to analyze this game. I'm rocking with CT unless they're playing against Notre Dame. That is what it is. I'm rocking with Carnell until I'm looking for my boy to have a great game. He continues to ascend. His reception rate, yards per catch, his last 4 games have been phenomenal. I just hate he has a stretch where he'll catch like 3 to 4 passes in a row and then they just won't go back to him. And I'm like, I understand you got Jeremiah Smith, but my guy is cooking. Looks good with it. Get him to rock. But
the quarterback can't spread the ball around. That's all it is.
Yeah, that's true. But I'm gonna rock with my boy Carnell Tate and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I already know you're not taking Clemson, bro. Yeah.
Who are they playing? Who's Clemson playing?
Why am I drawing a blank right now? This is ridiculous, man. There's no way I should be drawing a blank. No. They play. I really am drawing a blank right now. Texas. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
I don't think Cade Klubnik can win this one. I got Texas in a good win. Hard fought, but I got Texas in that one.
I'm gonna throw a curveball here, Left. I probably shouldn't, but I'm about to go ahead and go with the seams and throw a curveball. I think Texas is a little wobbly coming off Georgia. I think Texas comes out flat. I think Clemson's defense early is physically going to dictate to Texas, shut down the run game, and I like the defensive backs of Clemson that can play man-to-man. Eventually, I just don't trust Cade Klubnik in the second half.
Period. I mean,
That's the kicker. If they had any other quarterback besides Cade Klubnik in the second half,
Cade Klubnik in any significant game is a wash.
I rock with you. I rock with you on that one. I do. I rock with you on that one. I do. I do believe that the Clemson defense can give Texas problems. Just up front, physically, stop the run, because Texas' run game is not physical, it's not really downhill, and it's really a result of space in that passing game. And like I said, the defensive backs, the two outside guys for Clemson, they can defend. They can lock up against the talented receivers. But eventually, Cade Klubnik makes a mistake or two. Eventually.
Yeah.
And
moment gets too big for Cade, especially against teams that are kind of better. So.
yeah. All right, what's your score? Notre Dame, Indiana. Left. I already know you're taking the points and probably the over, because you still think Notre Dame's going to put up 30 plus. So
I think we'll put around 30. I think this is a game like them Broncos got to look at it like chili. Like a base chili with Jeremiah Love can satisfy a lot of people, win a lot of awards.
mm-hmm.
But when you at home, you like, maybe I want to throw some cheese in there with an Aeneas Williams.
Some
Sour
onions.
cream with a Jadarian
Yeah, okay. I see what you're doing.
Crackers with a Chris Mitchell.
The oysters or the saltines?
The oysters.
Okay.
And then you get the chives with a Mitchell Evans.
Mm.
Now you got something different. Then if you're really feeling slick, you add some of that passing game with a potato. Now you got a chili potato fully loaded. And don't forget the bacon. Don't forget the bacon with a Bo Collins.
Man, if you're going to load it, put it on top of a nice little Chicago-style hot dog. Get you a nice Chicago-style chili dog.
See, that's what you got to have at the end of the day. So I got us a nice 33-17 victory over the Hoosiers. And I think it's going to be a slow roast. It's not going to be a game one in the first half. It'll be a game one overtime.
Nothing microwavable, nothing quick. Slow roast. Be patient. It's coming.
Just open fire.
Yeah, the inevitable is coming. The inevitable is coming. Eventually Thanos is going to show up. That's what Infinity War was about, right? Like, they're sitting there, they're fighting all the forces, and then all of a sudden Thanos shows up. And it's like, all right, he has all the stones, or he's about to get the last stone, so we know it's about to happen. Eventually, at some point in the second half, Notre Dame is going to collect that last stone. And once they do, it's probably a wrap. No, not probably. It is a wrap for the Indiana Hoosiers Cinderella season. So I'm going to go 30-14. No, 30-17 left. I'm going to go 30-17 Notre Dame. And I feel disrespectful saying 17, because every time I say something, Notre Dame, their defense stands up and just gives up less points than I predict. but I'm comfortable saying 30-17. Hard hitting, physical game. Hard hitting, pads popping. I was about to say pads popping. Pads popping, physical game. You'll hear it coming through the TV. Everyone that's there, enjoy. Everyone that's in South Bend tonight, enjoy. Be responsible. Take care of each other. Don't drink and drive. And just have a good time and experience this legendary historical moment in South Bend at Notre Dame Stadium, Notre Dame, Indiana, 7 o'clock p.m. Friday night, I apologize, on ABC. It's going to be fantastic. Let's get to some of your predictions. John Collins, 42-10. Whew, he's taking the top off. Jay Lamont putting his foot on the gas, 35-14. Super Chat DBZ, we do apologize. I had to come back in. I don't know what it was. The stream was acting up with X as well. Audio was choppy. Thank you, DBZ, girl. Happy holidays to you and your family, all your sorors. We appreciate Super Chat early to let us know what was going on. Question for Left from Beef Eater ND08. When everyone is all jacked up before the game, what is the funniest pregame joke or antic that happened that got everyone laughing and loosened up in the locker room, Left?
Not too many. I mean, on game day, everybody has their own routine how they get ready, and you kind of focusing. And I'm in my own zone, so you don't really. I mean, other than like when you're going down the stairs, you might slip and bust your ass. I mean, that's gonna happen every game.
See, I was the court jester in the locker room for the basketball squad.
It was just hard, man, because
I was always the one doing like some silly dance, getting cats, loose. I was that guy, especially when I was coming off the bench. When I became an actual leader, I tried to not, go into that well too many times. But that was definitely my personality. I had to be loose, bro. I'm like, man, look, the game is the game. Man, nothing is changing. I don't care who we're playing. I don't care if it's a championship game, conference championship on the line, divisional championship on the line, city, whatever. The game is the game. I might as well be myself.
Yeah, I mean, guys do have. There were some guys who are more relaxed. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just so dramatic. All the traditional stuff you're doing, the walk and the prayer and the thing, and that you just like, all right, let me just lock in. So I think, during the game, there's a lot of funny moments that you think about. Just there's some stuff that happens, but it sometimes is a blur when you think about it too, just because it happens so fast, man. 1 minute you feel like you're going through it, you're trying to figure it out, and the next minute you like, damn, that was like 5 years ago I played.
Yeah, I will say this: the funniest conversations would always take place during free throws. Whether
get quiet. Yeah.
Either I'm lined up talking trash across the lane to somebody, or talking trash to the free thrower, or I'm at half court talking to like my other guard, laughing about something that just happened. Like laughing at the big man, like, what is this goofy doing, man? Does this dude not know the plays? Like, those were the funny moments, bro. Those are the funny moments. Football might be different. I rarely laughed at something in the moment while the action was going on. But with basketball, those were definitely the moments that I definitely would laugh. And if it was a crazy game, you notice something. In basketball, it's easy to notice stuff in the stands, especially like in high school gyms. You can hear people saying something from the stands. Heck, to keep it a buck, if you're on the road at a visiting school and you look up in the stands like, yo, okay, all right.
That's right.
They got a few. They got a few dizzies up. Okay, all right,
A few teams with
right, right, right. I mean, that's the type of stuff that goes through your mind. But then you lock back in because, like I said, man, just be yourself. The game is the game, man. Have fun. That gives me confidence going into this game because I can say one thing about Riley Leonard: he's going to be him. You can call him Mayberry, you can call him Country. He's going to be him. That's all he can be. That's all he can. That's exactly who he's going to be. I don't think the moment is going to be too big for him. The kid is who he is. He is who he is. I think he's going to cause them problems in the run game. I do think that because Indiana has not seen anyone that adds to the run game in the Big Ten. They haven't faced anybody. Like Howard said, if they don't play Ohio State and Michigan, their strength of schedule is somewhere in the 90s. And those are the two games where their offense struggled mightily. So, enough said. Enough said. I know all the stats. I know what they're ranked as far as stopping the run. All right, line up. Let's get it. Let's get it. 7 o'clock Friday night. Notre Dame, Indiana. A couple of more predictions. V-Dub, 38-17. And Jay Lamont says Indy takes off early, 21-7 at the half. I'm glad people bring up NIU because that pisses off the players. IU, not enough. Yeah, I agree with that. Anything else on the way out that we should look out for, Luff, in this matchup?
Consistency, man. How can we show consistency in the conditions and be able to play at a high level?
Yeah, it's funny because I was listening to Joe Klatt. You know, Joe Klatt took Indiana in this game. And he was like, yeah, I just worry about Notre Dame. They're not able to pass the ball. And I'm like, Joe, it doesn't matter. We don't need to pass the ball for 300 yards. Like, what are you talking about? Have you not watched us? That's the strength. We don't need to throw the ball for 300 yards. If Riley throws for 150 and runs for 50, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. You're in trouble. And I think that's what people miss.
Yeah, we have a quasi team where Riley having a bad day isn't a necessarily bad day for the offense.
That's the thing, right? Like Riley
and very, 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 very few teams can say that.
Mm-hmm.
SMU's quarterback Kevin Jackson has a bad day, is over with.
Yes.
Dylan Gabriel has a bad day, is over with. Will Howard has a bad day. We saw last week, is over with. Cam Ward has a bad day, is over with.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Notre Dame has an average day, bad day to most teams. He has an average day of 150. We win by double digits and score 40 points. He doesn't even play the third quarter. So against a ranked team that's undefeated. So it's like that's a quasi thing where you can't just say Riley Leonard having a bad day will affect the team. Xavier Watts having a bad day will affect the team more than Riley Leonard. Unless Riley Leonard just throws 8 picks in a row, but the way he plays just keeps him in a good spot that the team around him can make him look even, better. So it's just a different dynamic, I think, offensively.
Yeah.
Where we're not necessarily saying Riley or nothing. I think on drives we do, which get us in trouble sometimes, but we have spread the ball around enough to create enough stress for a defense to think that there's more than just 13 there. I mean, for 4 to be so dangerous and IU call on the press conference and say that, yeah, we got to hit 13. I'm like, you didn't even say hit 4. 4 the one that get all the highlights and all the plays and all the yards and all the – and you talking about hit 13. Like, what? Oh, you guys aren't. Maybe I don't know. Maybe
they don't realize the weird thing is the more you hit 13, the more he likes it. Like 13 isn't the type of player that you hit and all of a sudden he starts to shrink. Riley, like, just for no reason, just searches out contact. Like, he just wants contact. He jumping in the air, like, yo, for whatever reason, he loves it. So I'm like, hit him. That's the thing. If Curtis Rourke doesn't have a big game, it's a wrap. Riley Leonard does not need to have a big game for Notre Dame to win.
Yeah.
All he needs to do is do his job. That's it.
Riley Leonard throw for 300 yards all season.
Absolutely.
And we won double digits in 9 games and been in the 40s and 50-point game. And he hadn't thrown over 300 yards. Shador had to throw 300 yards to win the game. And they win by what? It'd be 31-21 or something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, relatively, Riley's impact on winning isn't as high as it is for the other top quarter. Carson Beck having a bad day for Georgia is a bad day for the team.
But Georgia has a culture that even if he has a bad day, they can win.
They're going to give him a chance.
Yeah. And that's why I said Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman have a culture now that if the quarterback does not play superb in big games, they can still win. And not just win, they've been doing it convincingly. So let's get it. And Jay Lamont, that's a great point, man. Watch these refs in these games, too. Watch these refs in these games. Because you might get some really strange calls. But you heard what Howard said, right? These athletic directors are not making these decisions left. It's the SEC, Big Ten, and Notre Dame that are the power brokers. So thank you guys for joining us today. We'll see you guys for the post game and see whether or not Notre Dame can advance to face Georgia in the second round, the quarterfinals of the CFP. For Left, SD2 Mics, have a great Thursday. But most of all, make sure you spin it different.